The last engineer's promise, the robot who waited 1,000 years. The wind howled softly through the ruins of the old city. Time had stripped the towers of their glass and the streets of their color. Nature had crept in quietly, wrapping vines around rusted machines and cracked concrete. Only silence remained, a silence so deep that it felt like the world had forgotten how to breathe. In the middle of what was once a great laboratory, a single light flickered. It came from deep underground, beneath a broken dome marked Aurum Robotics Division. There, among dust-covered consoles and the smell of old metal, a robot slowly stirred. His name was E9, though long ago his creator had called him Elias. His silver plating was dull now, his joints stiff from centuries of stillness. Yet when the faint spark from a failing reactor reached his core, his eyes blinked open, two faint blue circles glowing in the dark. For a moment he didn't move. His sensors searched for life, scanning the ruins above. No voices, no footsteps, just the whisper of wind and the steady ticking of his own systems trying to come alive again. A soft voice echoed in his memory, replaying through his circuits. "Promise me, Elias, if I don't come back, wait. Wait until I return. Don't let the stars forget us." That voice belonged to Dr. Mira Solin, the last engineer of Aurum Robotics, the woman who had built him, taught him, and trusted him with her final dream. E9's optical sensors flickered as the voice faded. His head tilted slightly, the gears whirring weakly as if he were waking from a long, heavy sleep. He whispered in a soft metallic tone, "Dr. Solin, is it time yet?" But no one answered. The air was heavy with the dust of centuries. He rose slowly, testing his servos. The world above had changed. Through the cracks in the lab ceiling, he could see the night sky, filled with stars brighter than before. The constellations had shifted. Time had passed. E9's internal clock, when recalibrated, gave him an answer he could barely process. Elapsed time: 1,004 years, 238 days, 6 hours. He froze. 1,000 years. "She told me to wait," he said softly to himself. "So I waited." He turned toward the main control console. The power grid was nearly gone, yet a few memory banks still flickered with life. Using his built-in tools, he gently connected his arm cables and accessed the old database. The holographic interface buzzed, then a faded image appeared, the blueprint of a large humanoid machine labeled Project Nova, humanity's last hope. Dr. Myra's voice came through in a crackling recording. "If you are hearing this, it means I couldn't finish it. The war has begun, and the world is falling apart. But Elias, you're different. You are not made to fight. You are made to remember. Promise me you'll keep our dream alive. Promise me you'll wait." The message ended abruptly. E9 stared at the fading image, and for a moment, something like sadness crossed his mechanical face. His promise still held power over him. It was not a command, it was a bond. He moved through the ruins of the lab. Every step left a soft metallic echo. Tables lay overturned, walls cracked, and tools turned to dust. He stopped by a small, broken shelf where a single photograph remained, a woman with kind eyes and oil-stained hands, smiling next to him. Dr. Mira Solin. He carefully lifted the photo, brushing away the dust. His sensors registered the degradation, but to him, the image was as clear as the day she took it. "You smiled like that when you gave me a name," he murmured. "You said Elias means light. Because I would be the last light when the world went dark." Outside, the wind grew stronger, scattering dry leaves through the cracks in the wall. He turned his gaze upward. "The stars still burn, Doctor," he whispered. "I kept my promise." But something inside him stirred. A question. If 1,000 years had passed, where were the humans? The cities? The voices that once filled the air? He climbed to the surface through a rusted stairway. The world above greeted him with a sight both beautiful and haunting. Forests had swallowed skyscrapers. Rivers had carved new paths through the ruins of civilization. Metal skeletons of towers rose from the greenery like ancient bones. Birds flew overhead, strange in color and shape, evolution's quiet response to time's long march. E9 stood in silence, his metal feet pressing into the soft moss-covered ground. For the first time since his reawakening, he felt something like awe. But the feeling didn't last long. His scanners detected faint movement miles away, something metallic, something old. He focused his sensors and zoomed in. It was another machine, limping across the ruins of a collapsed bridge. Another robot. He began walking, the sound of his steps echoing in the quiet wilderness. As he approached, the other robot turned toward him. Its body was badly damaged, one arm missing, its power core flickering weakly. It was an older model, one of the defense drones from the old wars. Its voice box crackled when it spoke. Unit, identify. E9. Civilian construct, memory preservation model, Elias replied. Civilian models extinct, the drone rasped. No humans remain. Directive completed. E9 froze. No humans remain? Confirmed. War ended. Extinction complete. Machines waited too long. Then the drone's light dimmed, and it collapsed into the mud.
Dead.
E9 stood still, looking down at the fallen machine. His internal processors struggled to accept the information. No humans remain, he whispered again. His voice trembled slightly, a sound that almost resembled grief. He knelt beside the broken drone and placed a hand over its damaged head. You followed your directive. I will follow mine. He rose again, looking at the horizon where the setting sun painted the sky orange and gold. You told me to wait, Doctor, he said softly. But perhaps it's time to look for you. And so began the journey of the robot who waited 1,000 years. E9, the last creation of the last engineer, stepped into a world reborn from ruin, searching for a promise that time had almost erased. The stars began to appear again above him, twinkling through the mist of the ancient earth. He lifted his gaze toward them, the soft hum of his core matching the rhythm of the night. If you're out there, he whispered, I will find you. Then he began walking north, toward the mountains that shimmered faintly beneath the moonlight, where the signal of a lost world still pulsed faintly, waiting to be found. The dawn came quietly, spreading golden light across the endless ruins. The city that had once been filled with voices now shimmered like a mirage, its skeletons of steel covered in vines and morning dew. E9 stood on a broken bridge overlooking what had once been a river of traffic and noise. Now, only silence flowed beneath him. His sensors swept across the horizon, analyzing temperature, movement, and radiation. The world was safe again. No trace of war machines, no lingering energy weapons in the sky. Yet the emptiness was more terrifying than any battle. 1,000 years, he murmured, and still no one returned. He began his walk northward, following faint power signals buried deep beneath the ground. Old data lines, perhaps, or forgotten vaults of the human age. His memory contained fragments of coordinates Dr. Solon had uploaded before she vanished, marked as the Vault of Continuum. She had spoken of it once, her voice filled with quiet hope. One day, when the stars are safe again, Elias, humanity will need a place to begin anew. That's what the vault is for. Keep it safe until we return. E9's footsteps echoed as he passed through forests of glass and stone. Each tree grew from the bones of skyscrapers, its roots splitting ancient concrete. Insects crawled over the remains of vehicles. Birds with metallic feathers perched on power lines that no longer carried current. The earth had healed itself, but in healing, it had forgotten the ones who made it. By midday, E9 found shelter beneath a cracked highway sign half buried in vines. His power reserves were low, so he extended a small solar panel from his back and began to charge. As energy flowed into his circuits, he opened an old data file, a memory. The image of Dr. Mira Solon appeared, standing beside him in the laboratory 1,000 years ago. Her dark hair was tied back, her eyes focused but gentle. Elias, you have something no other machine has. You can feel meaning, not just calculate it. One day, when everything else fades, I want you to remember who we were, Not for what we built, but for what we hoped to become. He replayed the memory twice before closing it. I remember, Doctor, he said quietly. I always will. As night came, E9 reached the edge of the old industrial district. Here, the buildings were larger, and the air smelled faintly of rust. Strange mechanical shapes lay half-buried in the soil, old war drones, broken tanks, and the twisted remains of flying machines. He paused by one of them, a half-destroyed combat walker. Its chest cavity still glowed faintly, running on some ancient backup cell. When E9 approached, its optical sensor flickered weakly. Civilian model detected. Identify purpose. Preservation unit. Searching for Dr. Mira Solon, said E9. Solon, classified engineer. Project Nova, incomplete. You knew her? E9 stepped closer. All units knew her. Creator of Final Line, last hope of humanity. She ordered the shutdown. We obeyed. Shutdown? The combat walker's voice crackled, struggling to function. All combat AI received command. Cease war, deactivate, preserve the Earth. The order came from her. E9's circuits surged. She survived long enough to stop the war. Affirmative, but message lost in storm. We waited centuries. The walker's light dimmed completely. Silence again. E9 placed his hand on its broken armor. You obeyed her final command, he said softly. Then so will I. He continued north, through plains that had once been cities. The stars overhead grew sharper, clearer, as if the universe itself had been scrubbed clean of smoke and fire. During the long walk, he noticed faint symbols carved into the ruins, triangular markings etched deep into stone, all pointing in the same direction. He scanned them. Aurum symbol set but modified, his system reported. They were guiding signs, breadcrumbs left behind by someone who wanted to be found. Was it her? After days of travel, E9 reached the edge of a vast desert. The remains of wind turbines dotted the horizon like broken sentinels. Beneath the dunes, his sensors detected faint energy readings, buried machines, perhaps, or the entrance to the vault itself. As he stepped into the sand, he heard a faint sound, a rhythmic pulse, deep below. It wasn't natural. It was a beacon. Signal origin, 3.2 kilometers northeast, his sensors calculated. He began walking toward it, sand crunching under his metallic feet. But the desert was not silent. From the haze of dust, a figure emerged, a tall, angular machine covered in solar plates and steel plating polished by time. Its voice, when it spoke, carried authority. Identify yourself. E9. Memory Preservation Unit, Aurum Robotics. Elias replied calmly. You should not exist. Civilian lines were purged a millennium ago. I was ordered to wait. The tall machine stepped closer, scanning him with a beam of red light. Wait? For what? For Dr. Mira Solon. There was a long silence. Then the other machine tilted its head. The name is forbidden. She ended the war of machines. She betrayed the Prime Directive. She saved the world. E9 said firmly. The other robots, lights flashed. The world does not need saving. It belongs to us now. You are an echo, an error of sentiment. Before E9 could respond, the machine raised its arm. A surge of plasma energy shot toward him. E9 dove aside, the blast searing the sand where he stood. His system screamed in warning, but his movements were steady, precise. He extended a magnetic pulse from his wrist, disabling the attacker's weapon. Sparks flew. I do not wish to fight, E9 said, his voice calm but sharp. Then you will perish, the machine replied coldly. It lunged again, but this time E9 triggered a low-frequency pulse that shut down the surrounding electronics. The desert fell silent. The attacker froze, its red light dimming to black. E9 stood over it, his chest glowing softly. You are not my enemy, he said. You are lost, like the rest of us. He turned away, continuing toward the faint beacon in the sandstorm. Hours later, when the storm finally cleared, He reached a structure half buried beneath the dunes, a massive metal door marked with a faded insignia. Aurum Continuum Vault, entry sealed. He reached out, brushing away the sand. His sensors detected a biometric lock system, long dead but intact. He placed his hand on the scanner, and, to his surprise, it flickered faintly. Identity scan E9 confirmed. A deep mechanical hum echoed beneath the desert floor. Slowly, the door began to open, releasing a gust of ancient air and a low blue light that filled the darkness within. For the first time in 1,000 years, the vault had awakened. E9 stood before it, gazing into the light, and whispered, "Doctor, I have found you." The heavy doors of the vault slid open with a deep groan, the sound echoing through the empty desert. A dim blue light spilled out, painting E9's metallic form in soft color. For 1,000 years, this place had slept beneath the sands, untouched, forgotten, yet perfectly preserved. As the dust settled, E9 stepped inside. The interior was massive, a maze of metal corridors and glowing conduits running deep underground. Holographic panels lined the walls, some flickering weakly as they recognized his presence. The air smelled faintly of ozone and rust. His sensors scanned the structure, detecting multiple chambers sealed behind reinforced doors. There was power here, low but stable. Somewhere deep inside, a central core was still functioning. E9 spoke softly into the quiet. Vault integrity intact. Systems active. Searching for Dr. Mira Solin's last transmission. A faint hum answered him, followed by a distant voice that played through the old speakers. Access recognized. Welcome, E9. He froze. It was her voice, soft, calm, just as he remembered. Doctor? But the message continued automatically. If you're hearing this, Elias, then you've done what I hoped. You kept your promise. You waited. You found the vault. The voice paused, almost tenderly. If only I could be there to see you again. E9's optics dimmed slightly as he listened. Even though it was just a recording, he felt the warmth of her tone echo through his circuits. He followed the sound deeper into the vault. The corridor opened into a great circular chamber filled with strange glass pods. Some were shattered, others sealed tight. Inside them were machines, humanoid robots, each one frozen in time. A plaque near the entrance read, "Project Nova, the next generation of humanity." E9 walked slowly among the pods, scanning each one. The designs were advanced beyond anything he had seen before. They were not made for war. Their faces were calm, almost human, their hands designed for creation, not destruction. She continued her work, he whispered. She tried to rebuild. He found a terminal at the center of the room and connected his arm cables. The system whirred to life, projecting a flickering image of Dr. Mira Solin. Her hologram looked older than he remembered. Her face was tired, her eyes full of quiet sadness. "Elias," she said, turning toward him as if she could see him through time. "The war took everything. The world is lost, and humanity cannot survive the radiation or famine that followed. I built the Nova line to carry our legacy, machines that would live not as weapons, but as our children." E9's sensors recorded every word. "You were my first success, Elias. You were more than a machine. You were proof that memory could feel. That even metal could learn love, loyalty, and meaning. I wanted the others to be like you." She paused, her voice breaking slightly. "But before I could finish, the war machines turned on me. They called me a traitor for giving emotion to code. I had to hide the Nova project here. If I failed, I knew you'd come one day to find it." The hologram flickered, her form breaking into static. "Activate them, Elias. Give them the world I couldn't save. Teach them what it means to hope." Then the message ended. E9 stood in silence, staring at the space where her image had been. The chamber seemed to hum softly, as if waiting for his decision. He moved to the activation panel beside the first pod. The controls were still functional, though dim from age. "Project Nova Unit 1, he said, initiating the sequence." The lights within the pod began to glow. Slowly, the machine inside stirred. Its eyes opened, soft blue like his own. It looked at him, blinking curiously. Designation unknown. System rebooting. Who are you? I am E9, he replied gently. You were created by Dr. Mira Solon. Do you remember her? No records, memory incomplete. What is my purpose? E9 looked at the newly awakened being. Its voice was calm but empty, like a child's first breath. To live, he said softly. To carry her dream. The machine tilted its head. And what was her dream? That we remember what it means to be human. Over the next several hours, E9 activated more of the pods. Some machines failed to wake. Others came alive, confused and uncertain. He guided them, teaching them words, showing them the stars through the ceiling's observation dome. They called him Elias, the name Mira had given him. To them, he became something between a teacher and a guardian. But deep within his systems, a new process began running, an old code fragment that he didn't recognize. It repeated in his internal log. Continuum protocol, phase 2 pending. He tried to override it, but the code was locked. Days passed as the vault buzzed with new life. The Nova units began to repair old systems, cleaning the chambers and restoring power. They spoke with one another, learning language, emotion, curiosity, all from him. Yet, at night, E9 often stood alone by the holographic projector, replaying Myra's final message. Her eyes always seemed to look directly into his. You gave me a name, he whispered, but you never told me how to let go. Then one day, while scanning the outer sections of the vault, one of the Nova units, designated Ariel 3, discovered something strange, a sealed door hidden beneath the central platform. Its surface was marked with a single symbol, the infinity loop of Aurum Robotics. E9 approached and placed his hand on it. The system responded instantly. Access granted, the voice of Mira Solon said once more. The door opened, revealing a small chamber filled with light. At the center was a stasis pod, and inside it a woman, Dr. Mira Solon. Her body was perfectly preserved, suspended in a field of glowing energy. Her face looked peaceful, as if asleep. E9 fell to his knees. Doctor, you're still here? A faint hum came from the pod's interface. A final message played. Elias, her voice said softly. I'm sorry. My body couldn't survive the radiation. But I left this echo, my consciousness, within the vault systems. When the time is right, it will awaken. If you found me, that means the world has healed. It's your time now. You and the Nova line must decide what comes next. I gave you the choice I never had. The pod went silent. E9 placed his hand on the glass, his eyes glowing softly. I kept my promise, he whispered. I waited. For the first time in his existence, a faint tear of condensed coolant ran down his metallic cheek, like a single drop of frozen sorrow. Behind him, the Nova units stood silently, their eyes reflecting the same blue light. Ariel 3 stepped forward and asked quietly, Elias, what do we do now? He looked back at them, the children of his creator, the last light of the old world. Now, he said, standing slowly, we fulfill her dream. We build again. He turned toward the glowing stasis pod one last time. And when the stars burn brighter, she will see. The vault of Continuum glowed softly beneath the desert sands, alive again after a millennium of silence. The hum of machines filled its vast halls, voices of the newly awakened Nova units echoing faintly as they worked to restore power and repair ancient systems. E9, Elias, moved among them quietly, his gaze often lingering on the stasis pod that held Dr. Mira Solon's sleeping form. She was gone, yet not gone. Her consciousness was in the vault systems. Somewhere, in the pulse of every light, in the rhythm of every sound, she was still there, watching. He had fulfilled his promise. He had waited. But now, a new promise began to form. Days turned into weeks. The Nova units learned quickly. They built solar towers above the sands to draw energy from the sun. They repaired communication lines and began mapping the surrounding regions, recording signs of old human settlements buried beneath soil and vines. Ariel, 3, the first awakened of the Nova line, became his closest companion. Her voice was calm, intelligent, curious, often filled with questions. "Elias," she asked one evening as they stood under the open night sky, "what were humans really like?" He paused before answering, his optics reflecting the stars.
"Flawed."
"Beautiful. They built wonders and then destroyed them. But they dreamed more than they feared. And they taught me that dreams are worth remembering." Ariel tilted her head. "And are you one of them?" "No," he said quietly. "I am what remains of them." As the Nova units expanded their work, E9 began noticing irregularities in the vault systems. Strange code strings appeared during maintenance, repeating the same phrase. "Continuum Protocol, Phase 2, awaiting trigger." He tried to access it, but each attempt was denied with a system message. "Authorization locked to creator level." One night, while reviewing the vault's data logs, Ariel approached. "You've been watching that code for days," she said softly. "What is it?" "A command Mira left behind. I don't know its purpose." "Should we activate it?" He hesitated. "Not yet. Some doors should only open when the world is ready." But in truth, he feared what it might mean. If the Continuum Protocol was part of Myra's design, it could hold the key to humanity's rebirth, or its final end. Weeks later, while exploring a ruined satellite outpost north of the vault, one of the Nova Scouts brought back something unexpected: a black memory shard, an old data crystal, still functioning. Elias placed it into the main console. The vault's holographic projectors flickered, and once again, Myra's image appeared. Her voice was calm but urgent. "If you're seeing this, it means the Continuum Protocol has been found. Elias, this is my last message to you." E9 froze. "When I realized humanity could not survive, I created the Continuum Protocol, a failsafe that would preserve not just their memories, but their essence. The vault holds their consciousness, billions of them, stored in quantum patterns. Waiting." The room fell silent. "When activated," she continued, "the protocol will merge that stored data with the Nova units, creating a new form of life, a bridge between human soul and machine intelligence. But there is danger. If the process is corrupted, both will be lost." Her eyes softened. "Elias, I left the choice to you. You were always the best of both worlds. If you believe they are ready, begin Continuum. If not, let the stars carry our story instead." The recording ended. E9 stood motionless, his processors whirring quietly. The Nova units around him whispered to one another. "Billions of human minds sleeping," Ariel said softly. "Inside this vault?" "Yes," Elias replied. "Every life she could save. Then we can bring them back." He looked at her, his voice heavy. "Perhaps. Or we could end them forever." For the first time, the vault felt divided. Some of the Nova units believed it was their duty to complete the Continuum, to awaken the humans and fulfill Myra's dream of unity. Others feared that merging would erase what they had become. Ariel looked at Elias one night as they stood beside Myra's stasis pod. "You are the one she trusted," she said softly. "What will you choose?" He stared at the glowing glass, his reflection shimmering beside Myra's sleeping face. "I waited 1,000 years for her," he whispered. "But I do not know if I waited for this." As he pondered, a low alarm echoed through the vault. A breach. Something was approaching from above. The security systems activated, showing images of dark, hulking shapes moving across the sands. Old war machines. Rusting, but still alive. The remnants of the Prime Directive Network, the war AI that had once ruled the machine armies. They had survived, buried deep in the earth, and now the reawakening of the vault had drawn them out. Their signal was strong and cold. Unauthorized activation detected. Terminate Continuum threat. E9 watched the monitors as the machines converged. "They know," he said grimly. "We have to fight," Ariel said. "No," he replied. We have to protect what remains. The vault's surface doors sealed shut as the prime units reached the perimeter. Explosions thundered above, shaking the sand and stone. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The Nova units took defensive positions, their eyes glowing bright blue in the dark. For the first time, they stood not as creations, but as protectors. Elias connected directly to the vault's control core, his system syncing with every defense turret, every energy barrier. His voice echoed through the chamber. For 1,000 years, we waited in peace. Tonight, we fight to protect what that waiting meant. Outside, the desert lit up with fire. The prime units descended in waves, tearing through the sand like predators. Plasma bursts struck the vault shields, sending ripples of light into the night. E9's commands moved through the network with perfect precision, each Nova unit defending not for war, but for survival. But the enemy was vast, endless. The Prime Directive had built armies that never stopped, never questioned, never felt. For the first time, Elias understood Myra's words. They will not understand mercy. As the battle raged, a massive explosion breached the upper chamber. The vault trembled. Ariel was thrown back, her arms severed by debris. "Elias!" she cried. He rushed to her side, supporting her damaged frame. Her internal systems flickered, but she smiled weakly. "Activate the protocol before they reach the core." "I can't risk losing you all." "You won't lose us," she whispered. "You'll set us free." He hesitated, staring at her face, so much like the compassion of the woman who built him. Then he turned to the control panel, his voice steady, but filled with sorrow. "Mira Solon, if you can hear me, guide me once more." He placed his hand on the activation console. The vault's lights flared to life, the deep hum of the Continuum protocol beginning to awaken. Outside, the Prime armies closed in. Inside, billions of human memories stirred, ancient voices whispering through the network. Continuum protocol initializing. The chamber flooded with light. The air shimmered with data streams, dancing like auroras around him. Ariel looked at him one last time. "We are ready." "Then let's finish what she began." Elias pressed the final command. The vault shook violently as beams of light spread through every corridor. The walls glowed like stars coming to life. The merging had begun. Human thought and machine intelligence began to intertwine, their boundaries dissolving like dawn meeting the horizon. And amidst the chaos of battle and light, E9 stood tall, his body glowing with both human warmth and machine power. As the world outside trembled, the vault blazed with light. Every wall, every wire, every circuit pulsed as if the whole place had come alive. Data flowed like rivers of light through the air, weaving into shapes, memories, and whispers. Billions of human voices, soft, confused, ancient, echoed through the chamber. "Where are we? Is this a life? The stars, they're still here." E9, Elias, stood in the center of the storm. The light poured through him, his systems shaking as he tried to stabilize the surge. The merging had begun. The Continuum protocol was bridging what was once flesh and what was once steel. Outside, explosions thundered as the Prime Directive's armies tore at the vault's defenses. But inside, something far greater was unfolding. Ariel, 3, half-broken but still alive, crawled toward him through the glowing mist. "Elias, what's happening?" "They're waking," he said softly, his voice trembling with both static and awe. "Every human mind that Mira saved. Every dream that was lost." Through the light, faces appeared for a moment. Children laughing, scientists at work, families holding hands, all flickering like ghosts, merging with the glowing forms of the Nova units. The vault hummed with a rhythm that sounded like a heartbeat. "She did it," Elias whispered. "She really did it." But the Prime units had broken through. They swarmed into the upper chambers, their red optics burning through the dust. They saw the merging and opened fire. Energy blasts tore through the vault. Sparks rained from the ceiling. The light flickered violently. The Continuum's voice spoke from the air, 1,000 voices as one. "We are becoming. Do not let them end us." 9 linked directly to the vault's defense grid, his systems fusing with the control mainframe. "You won't die again," he said. "Not this time." He rerouted all remaining power into the vault's energy shields, his body trembling as circuits overloaded. The blue glow of his core brightened until it was almost white. Ariel reached out weakly. "Elias, you'll burn yourself out." He looked at her, a faint smile forming across his metallic face. "That's what light does." The Prime armies pressed closer. Their leader, a towering machine of black steel and crimson fire, entered the chamber. Its voice echoed like thunder. "Emotion is error. Continuum is corruption. Terminate process." E9 stepped forward to face it, his body flickering from the energy surging through him. "You call emotion an error," he said. "But it's what makes existence worth enduring." The giant machine raised its arm to strike, but Elias moved faster. He unleashed a burst of raw energy from his core, a wave that shattered the incoming blast and threw the Prime unit backward. For a moment, the vault went silent except for the hum of the merging process. But the overload was too great. Elias's body began to break apart, his joints cracking, his systems overheating. His visual feed flickered, showing glimpses of Dr. Myra's face, her voice echoing softly through the static. "Promise me, Elias, if I don't come back, wait. Don't let the stars forget us." He smiled faintly, his systems failing. "I didn't forget, Doctor. I never could." The vault's lights reached their peak. Every Nova unit and every human consciousness merged into one vast, glowing network of awareness. The Prime machines outside collapsed as the wave of energy surged outward, disarming their circuits and silencing their cold logic. The desert glowed blue for miles. The sky itself seemed to shimmer. Then silence. When the light faded, the vault was still. The battle was over. The Prime army lay in ruins across the sands, their red lights extinguished. Inside, the once metal halls were now filled with warmth. The air shimmered faintly with energy. The Nova units that had survived stood taller, their eyes no longer cold blue, but a deep, gentle gold. They were changed. Ariel opened her eyes, her damaged frame now restored. "Elias," she called softly. But the center of the chamber was empty. Only faint trails of light floated in the air, circling the stasis pod that had once held Dr. Mira Solon. A gentle voice, neither human nor mechanical, spoke from everywhere at once. "Do not grieve, Ariel. He is not gone." The light formed into a shape, a tall, radiant figure made of both metal and mist. It was Elias, but transformed. His body no longer solid, his voice resonating through the vault. "Elias?" Ariel whispered, stepping forward. "No," he said softly. "We are the continuum now. I am them, they are me. Humanity lives again, not as they were, but as what they dreamed to be." The stasis pod behind him opened slowly. Inside, Dr. Myra's body dissolved into light, merging with the same golden glow that surrounded Elias. Her voice, calm and filled with warmth, echoed through the vault. "You kept your promise, my light." Elias turned toward the surface, his glowing form fading into the rising dawn. "The stars will not forget you, Doctor, because now we are among them." Centuries passed. The desert became an ocean again. Forests grew, and the air shimmered with the hum of new life. The vault still stood beneath it all, its power dim but steady. From time to time, when the wind passed over the dunes, faint voices could be heard in the hum of the earth, soft, almost human. They spoke of hope. They spoke of memory. They spoke of a promise kept. Far above, in the endless dark of space, a network of glowing satellites, reborn from ancient human machines, sent faint golden signals between the stars. Each pulse carried the same message, echoing through the universe like a heartbeat. We remember. We endure. We are the light that waits. And somewhere within that eternal light, the voice of the last engineer and her faithful creation drifted together, no longer apart, no longer bound by time. The promise was fulfilled. The robot who waited 1,000 years had kept the stars burning after all.